Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel Style by C. On today's tutorial, I'm going to be talking on how to recreate this lovely piece I'm putting on, this beautiful gown. So if this is your first time of stopping by, thank you so much. You are highly welcome. So our returning subscribers and viewers, you guys are so amazing. Thank you so much. Don't forget to turn on your notification bell. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Alright, so let's get started. Fabric I'll be working with, I have about 4 yards of fabric here, but I'll be working with 2 to 2.5 yards of fabric. Alright, so let's get started. This is actually a light scrap material or fabric. That's what we're going to be working with for this beautiful tutorial. So the first thing first I did was to cut out 2 yards away from my fabric. Reason is because it's going to be bulky if I'm working with the 4 inches at once. So I cut out 2 yards. Now I'm going to be folding my fabric in a triangle form. So I picked the 2 ends this way. Fold it into 2 first. This is my fabric on a fold of 2 first. This is my fabric on a fold of 2. This is the center point. At this point now has a joining. Okay, is the center. Now this is the open end. So now I'm going to go ahead and fold this in a triangle form. This way. Okay, I'm trying to adjust it. So this is now my material on a triangle fold. All right, the first one was to fold it into 2, then I went ahead and folded it in a triangle form this way. So this is what I have. All right, so guys, the next thing I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be dividing my waist measurements by 3.142. okay, so now my waist measurement is 28 inches. I'll be adding extra 1 inch to it because of my zip. It's going to be having a zip allowance. All right, so I'm going to be working with 29 inches divided by 3.142. So when I divided mine, I got 9.2, which is approximately 9 inches. So from the tip of my folded end, I'm going to be marking 9 inches. I'll go ahead and mark it round. You can decide to work with 9.25 inches, which is totally fine, or 9.1, which is okay. So this is what I have. All right, I'm gonna head to mark it. So having done this, the next thing we're going to be marking now is the full length of our gown. All right, so from your half length, my half length is 16 inches. So this is my 16 inches. Place it at that your curve you have made, your 9 inches. Then from there, mark the full length of your gown. So I'm working with 39 inches. I'll be adding extra 1.5 inches for seam allowance or for hemming allowance. You can decide to work with 40, which is totally fine. You can decide to add only 1 inch. So this is what I have. I'm gonna head to mark it down. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead now to do is to cut this piece out. Then this is this. Then for this down part, I also go ahead and cut it out. As for this upper part, I also went ahead to cut it out. So now I'm going to go ahead and notch the center of my flay. So this is my center. I'm going ahead to notch it. Then I'm going to open this up. So when I open it up, this is what I have. Okay, so from the center point I've notched now, I'm going to be marking 4 inches. So from this center point now, I'll go ahead and mark 4 inches because this gown is going to be having a slit. So now you can decide not to put a slit to yours. So from that 4 inches, I'm going to drag it down. Alright, so this is what I have. Now, the length of your slit, that's the tip, how high you want it to be or how low you want it to be, totally depends on you. You can decide to make it short, you can decide to make it long, is your choice. Okay, so I'm gonna head to open up my slit. You can decide to make it more higher, which is fine. So this is all for our flay. We'll keep it aside and work on the upper part of our gown. Now we're going to be cutting out. So now we're going to be cutting out our upper parts, the upper parts of our gown. Alright, so I'll be cutting the front first, after which we'll now use it and cut out the back. So I'm going to place my tape at the start point. Then I'm going to be marking my half length at 17. You can decide, my half length is 16, but I'm marking 17 inches. You can decide to work with 16 and half. Okay, so this is where it is. I'll go ahead and cut this out. Okay, so I haven't cut it out now. I'm going to be marking my shoulder measurements, which is 7.5 inches here. All right, then from this point now, I'm going to mark 11 to 12 inches down. All right, this is going to be serving as where my armhole is entering, my armhole. So I marked 11 inches. Then coming to the waistline, that is where my half length is, I'm going to mark my waist measurement, which is 7 inches when divided by 4. I'll add extra 1 inch. You can decide to add 1.5 inches. So I added 1.5 inches. Now I'm going to connect it. These 11 inches I came down by, I'm going to be connecting it to my waistline. So from this point now, I'm going to be making a curve to this point. So this is what I have. I'll go ahead and cut it out. I don't know if it was clear enough. So from my 11 inches, I curved it to my waistline. Then I'll go ahead and cut it off. Alright, so this is what I have. We'll be using this to cut out our back piece. So guys, I've gone ahead to cut out my back piece. What I did was to place my front piece on top of my back piece. Then I left some inches before placing my front piece. The reason is going to be having a zip at the back. Alright, so that is why this is here. Now, I didn't talk about my sleeve, the length of the sleeve. So after inserting my shoulder measurements, from this, where my shoulder measurement stops, I added about 14 inches for my sleeve. You can decide to add more, you can decide to add less. Alright, so now we are going to this zip allowance should be 1.5 to 2 inches, all right, or you can decide to work with 1 inch, which is totally fine. Now the next thing is the width of our neck is going to be 5 inches, then the depth is going to be 3 inches, both the front and the back. So I'll go ahead and cut this out this way. So this is what we are going to be having. Then another thing to do is to notch your center points this way. I'm going to be notching my center points. Alright, so this is what I have. Okay, so the next thing we are going to be doing now is open it up, face it right sides facing each other. Alright, facing your fabric right sides to right side, like the front piece and the back piece right side facing each other. Go ahead and shape your dress. Mind you, are not running a stitch on the shoulder measure on the shoulder line first. Leave the shoulder area, shape the side from this armhole point, from this sleeve length, shape it with 1 inches or half an inch down to your waistline. I'll also do the same thing for this other side. Okay, so guys, the next thing I went ahead to cut is my facing for the back piece and the front piece. This is what I have. All right, it's just to place your fabric, your cut out on top of another piece of fabrics and trace it out. Then also cut out a strap for my drawstring. Okay, so the width of the strap is 2 inches, then the length you can make it as long as you want. So now I'm going to go ahead and run a stitch here and turn it out. Then I'm going to be joining my facing to my main piece. For instance, this is my front. Okay, and this is the facing for my front. So I'll go ahead and join it to the neck area, turn it out, run a stitch on it and turn it over. So guys, at this point I've gone ahead to shape the dress. Remember, I've not touched the shoulder. Then the next thing I went ahead to do was to insert my facing, like join my dress to my facing to the main piece of my fabrics I'm working with. Okay, and I used a hemming gum to secure it down. You can see how neatly it is. All right, so now the next thing I'm going to be doing is, this is my sleeve area, so I'm going to go ahead and hem my sleeve. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, use the sewing machine and hem the edges of my sleeve. I'm going to do it for both sides of my sleeve. So guys, I'm done hemming the bottom part of my sleeve. This is what I have. Okay, so the next thing now is I'm going to be joining my shoulders together. So this is my back piece and this is my front piece. Right, these are the two shoulders together now. Okay, so I'm going to be stitching or joining these two shoulders using 1 inches to 1.5 inches. All right, reason is because they're going to be making a casing at the bottom, and that's at the casing at this shoulder area. Okay, so use 1 inch to 1.5 inches to enable your drawstrings to pass through. So go ahead and stitch on the shoulder line. So guys, I've gone ahead to join my shoulders together. Okay, then remember I used 1 inch to join my shoulders together. Now the next thing I did was to press open my stitching. So this is what I have. So I will go ahead now and run a stitch here, neatly, gently, easily. Yes, anyone. Okay, because we're going to be passing our drawstring in between it. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do now. Remember, you're doing it for both sides of your sleeve, both the left and the right. So guys, when I'm done, the next thing I'm going to be doing now is to be passing it through my casing. This is what my casing looks like. This is the outer part, and this is what the inside looks like. So now you pick your drawstring. So this is one of my drawstring. Please remember your drawstring is going to be it's going to be 4 pieces. All right, pick your drawstring, pick your set pin, just like how I did. This is my drawstring and this is my set pin. So go ahead and insert it in your casing that you have made. So I'm going to go ahead and insert this here. All right, this is what I'm doing. I'm passing it through my casing. So this is what I have. I'm going to pull it in a little. Now I'm also going to pass in the other drawstring on the other casing. Okay, so let's do that quickly. So when you're done putting it, what you have to do is you go ahead and run a stitch here to hold it down so it will not slip off. So now the next thing I'm going to do is, this is the skirt part of my gown, the fillet part. Okay, remember we'll notch the center point while working on it. And this is our front, the upper part of our gown. Okay, remember we also notched the center point. Now I'm going to be placing it center to center, right sides facing each other. Okay, so this is my center. I'll go ahead and pin it down, then run a stitch on it. Also do the same thing for the other side. Okay, so this is to join our two pieces together. So let's do that quickly. Our gown is looking like, the next step is to insert a zip to our gown. Then it's ready to be